Hey, welcome back to the workshop. Around here, as projects come and go, we end up with a lot of random wood scrap. Now, a lot of times these end cuts just get thrown in the fire, and that's the end of them. But today, I think we can build something out of them. I think it's going to be cool. Come check it out. So I've got some scrap cuts of, I think this is oak, and this one's definitely walnut. And they're all different thicknesses. Some are about a ½ inch, some are about a ¼ inch, and they're all roughly a foot long, maybe a little less. I think I can glue these up in a big stack and make a really cool knife sharpening strop out of them. Something like that. So the first thing we got to do with this is glue these pieces of wood together. I like to use plain old Titebond wood glue for this, and I use a lot of it. I don't mind if I've got a bunch of squeeze out. I'm just concerned that I've got glue filling in every single part of where this wood is going to join up. Once the glue is in place, I like to use these bar clamps to make sure that everything is held together nice and tight. As the clamps tighten, the pieces of wood want to squeeze out. It's important to hammer them back down flat now. This is going to save us a lot of work later if we get this right. Once the wood is clamped up tight, I set it aside and let the glue dry for a full 24 hours. Now that the glue is dry, any excess remaining can be sanded smooth on the belt sander. This step could be a little work or a lot of work, depending on how well you leveled your block when you were doing your glue up. Once I've sanded past the glue and I'm back down to the wood, I like to do my last bit of leveling with a small finger plane. This is the step where, if you did a good job leveling the block back with the hammer, this really pays off. My finger plane didn't like the grain on this side of the board, so I decided to scrape this one clean with an old Mora knife. Next, I need to lay out the handle for the sharpening strop. For this one, the handle is about 4 inches long. And we're back to the belt sander to clean things up. After that, the handle bevels are shaped in with a set of half-round and full-round files. Finally, all the work is blended together with a long strip of 120 grit sandpaper. A 1/4 inch hole is drilled in the handle. The edges of the hole are tapered with a countersink bit. Well, it doesn't look too bad so far. Let's keep going. Next, a piece of heavy leather is marked out to be cut for the top of the strop. I'm cutting out my leather here with a Mora Model 105 wood carving knife. This really isn't the best knife for leather, but it does okay. This particular piece of leather has a lot of loose pieces on the rough side, and I don't want those on my stropping surface, so in this case they're going on the downside. If I were making a strop a different way, I might leave the rough side up, but not this time. I use a piece of heavy steel C-channel and about 20 pounds of random metal weight to make sure that the leather is glued down nice and flat. The glue is then allowed to cure for a full 24 hours. Now that the glue is dry, the edges of the leather can be trimmed back. This piece of leather was deliberately cut a little bit oversized to accommodate this step. I find that this allows me to get the leather nice and flush with the edge of the wood and still glued down nice and tight. And once again, we're back to the belt sander to clean things up. I find that leather sands a lot like wood. The belt sander raises a small burr on the edge of the leather that needs to be sliced off. If you're not comfortable doing this with a knife, you can also round these edges over with 120 grit sandpaper. Now that the leather is ready to go, it's time to wipe down the handle of the strop with a couple coats of boiled linseed oil. Now it's time to apply the buffing compound. For a knife strop, I like to lay my buffing compound on nice and thick. To help that out, I'm going to prepare the surface of my leather with 80 grit sandpaper. I'm using a green buffing compound from a French company called Dialux. I don't know what grit this compound is, but I've been real happy with the results that I get on my knives. Because my shop knife was already pretty sharp, it doesn't take more than 10 or 12 swipes on the strop to bring it back up to shaving sharp again. So there you have it. With nothing more but a handful of scrap wood and a couple hours spent in the shop, we've got ourselves something beautiful and functional. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be right back here in the workshop with another one just as soon as I can. Thanks for watching.